Time is slipping away from me. Yeah. Time. There you go. Um, what's up, family? Welcome back to Kim Yaps. So, if you were here with us on the last episode, we went high, right? We went into the stratosphere, if you will. We talked about the divinity of Jesus, the Hebrew, the architecture of the cosmos, the truth with a capital T. Big G, not the little one, right? We talked about a God who keeps his word, a God who's the same yesterday, today, and forever. But tonight I gotta bring it all the way down. Because if the last episode was about the truth of God, this episode is about the lies of men. Specifically, the lies that some of us used to tell. It's Hecale where I am, and I wish it was raining so it could be more dramatic. But if you're here right now, you either can't sleep or you don't want to. Either way, pull up a chair. You're in the right room. Don't fall asleep. Tonight isn't about dating tips. I'm not here to tell you how to text back, how to maintain your frame, to not fumble your words, or even how to keep a roster. I'm not here to help you win the game. I'm here to ask you why you're playing it. I want to talk about it as a religion. And I don't mean the Sunday morning kind. I'm not talking about the choir or the offering plate. I'm talking about the religion a lot of us young men practice when nobody's watching. We call it gay. Or for some of y'all, Riz, I don't know how that became a thing for real, but we dress it up like sport. We say, we outside. We talk about running plays, shooting shots, keeping people on the bench, 3-day contracts, you feel me? Uh, what kind of stuff? I was riding here till 3 day. I gotta run my life. You feel me? And a lot of us, at least specifically, uh, those that are closely connected with my demographic, got it from Soul, like some Illuminati, right? Shout out Soul. Um, but as he later realized, I think, right? If you sit with that idea long enough and you actually think about what we're doing, it's not a sport, it's not a competition, it's a theology. It's a belief system, and the central creed is simple. If I stay in control, I cannot be hurt. That is the scripture, that is the altar that we worship at. And lately, I have been resitting with my book, Spirit of Solomon. It's a collection I wrote about this exact thing, a poetry collection more specifically, about this dude who's the modern version of King Solomon. And not just the wise man from Sunday school, but the man with 700 wives and 300 concubines, right? The original city boy. The man who had everything and still lost himself. In the book, I created a character, a version of myself in some ways, who crowns himself the king of desire, right? He builds a whole kingdom out of women, attention, and ego. And inside the first section of the book, which I titled, let me actually look, The Kingdom of Desire, there's a poem that has been coming back to me pretty consistently. And before I tell you about the poem, I want to tell you that just because you hear these things doesn't mean that they're all unforgivable. Now, before I get into the rest of the pod, because I know that's the first thing you'd be like, what the heck can we do? I can't believe this. Right? What I'm saying is some of these actions could be seen as justified. Now, if we were in a guru's office, I would be saying that this is me reading my shadow story and me telling you from the light, but to tell you the truth, some of the things in these words are factual. They're not just echoes of a self-proclaimed narcissist, right? They're truths covered in egregious lies, pointed at you to make you feel lost and untrusting of everybody, right? But I want you to understand that. So just sit with that as well. And it was actually funny, is it? The poem I'm talking about, it is right in front of the art of rotation and right behind God Ain't Watching. If y'all want me to do a recording on that, I will. But going back to it, the poem is called The Gospel of Gain. Now, I named it that on purpose. Gospel is supposed to mean good news. It means truth. But this gospel I wrote, it's the anti-truth. It is the false prophecy. It is what happens when you take the mechanics of faith and twist them to feed your ego. So tonight, I want to lay that mindset on the table and dissect it. Not to brag, not to be like, yeah, I used to get all the hoes. I want to talk about it like an autopsy. Because a lot of you listening, if you're honest, you live by this code. Your phone is loud and your bed is never empty. Your ego is fed, but you aren't a king. You're a con artist. And the main person you are scamming is yourself. So let's open the text. Now, when I go through this, I want you to listen to the arrogance of the character. I want you to listen to the control, and then we're going to go line by line and expose the lie, right? So the gospel of gain from the Spirit of Solomon. Even starting there, let's break that down. The gospel of gain. Now, what is the gospel? The gospel is something that saves you, right? Not in its entirety, like you receive the gospel and you just say it, right? You have to accept it. And for some people, this is their own version of the gospel, or rather a gospel. It is a manual or a key to never getting hurt. It is a tutorial on how to avoid not the pitfalls of the enemy, but to become the enemy. So the pitfalls that were made for you now get placed on other people. But let's move on into the first line. I never tell lies, I just let them believe. A well-placed pause, a touch on the sleeve, a look that lingers, a smirk, a tease. They write their own story, I just plant the seed. Love ain't a language, it's a trick of the tongue. A song well sung, a web well spun. Give her just enough to keep her near. Never too much, never too clear. A compliment wrapped in something unsaid, a whisper that lingers long after bed, a hand on her thigh, then pulling away, leave her wanting, make her stay. They call it game, but it's more like faith, a belief in the things I never say. A touch, a glance, a half-meant vow. She will paint the picture. I just show her how. Because truth is a mirror, and I learned too young, most hearts break long before they are strong. And me? I ain't cruel. I just let them dream. Ain't my fault they want to believe in me. I know, I kicked a little. So let's look at that first line, right? I never tell lies, I just let them believe. That there is the modern mission statement of dating. That is the church of ego in one sentence. It sounds clean, right? It sounds clever. It sounds like a lawyer finding a loophole in the contract. I never tell lies. I just let them believe. Which in itself is a lie because lies by omission are still lies. And technically, in the court of law, you are not guilty. But in the court of heaven, in your own conscience, you know what you did because communication isn't just about the words you speak. It's about the assumptions you don't correct. It's that eye contact you held for 5 seconds too long. It's the good morning text you sent every day for 3 months straight. It's the letting her meet your boys. It's letting her leave a bonnet and a toothbrush at your crib. You think you're being neutral. You aren't. You're speaking fluently in the language of commitment while hiding behind the fine print of silence. I just let them believe. This isn't innocence. It's a great strategy. So, specifically in the Spirit of Solomon, the whole first section of like the Kingdom of Desire is about that version of me. The boy who learned that if he stayed vague, if he stayed safe, the boy who would rather be a mirror than a man, because a mirror just reflects, right? It only reflects what people want to see. But a mirror, it can't be rejected. So I wrote, they write their own story, I just plant the seed. Think about what a seed is. It's small. It's effortless. You drop it in the dirt and walk away. But she's the soil. She wants love. She she wants love, so she waters the seed. She gives it sunlight. She nurtures it into a whole tree. And you just sit in the shade of a tree you never planned to take care of. And when the tree gets too big, when it starts blocking your view, you chop it down and say, well, you crazy. I never asked for a forest. We was just chilling. You turn her hope into evidence against her. You weaponize the fact that she loved you. That isn't game, it's theft. It's using someone's God-given desire for connection against them. And why do you do it? Because somebody did it to you. Because it's cheaper. It costs less to let someone build a fantasy around you than to build a real relationship. You get boyfriend benefits at friends with benefit prices. It's emotional rent control. Now moving on. Love ain't a language. It is a trick of the tongue, a song well sung, a web well spun. We're reading that. That's hella disrespectful. Not just to like women, which I'm so sorry about. Like this book was so terrible. This was a true unlocking of the shadow. Now, let me do some PR here. This is all is it be like some of this stuff is from stories from No Homeboy specifically. Now, when people would ask me about this book, I would usually say, "Oh no, this has nothing to do with me at all. I would never do no terrible things like this." How do you say it with just like such knowledge? Oh well, it just happened that week, right? But back to it, it's so disrespectful, not just to women, but love itself. And bro, I'm a hooper. I understand technique. I know how to work on my jumper. I know how to sell a fake. I know how to use my eyes to freeze a defender. In sports, deception is a skill. But when you bring that energy into a relationship, you turn a human being into an opponent. You turn a woman into a defender you're trying to cross over. Start curating yourself. In the second section of the book, we have conquest and the crown. Here, I talk about the version of the experience. It's not a person, it was an event. I just had the right playlist, the right lighting, and the childhood story that made me sound deep and wounded. Just enough to make her want to save me, but not enough to actually be vulnerable. Right? Like it says, give her just enough to keep her near. Never too much, never too clear. Again, like I'm going over scarcity. This is what do they call it? This is the idea of breadcrumbing. So if I give you everything, I lose leverage. But if I'm honest about how much I like you, you might hurt me. So I feed you in doses. A sweet night followed by silence, a vulnerable text followed by a dry one. I watch your anxiety spike, and that anxiety feeds my ego. It tells me, oh, I matter to her. A hand on her thigh, then pulling away, leave her wanting, make her stay. We call that keeping it exciting. In reality, it is training someone's nervous system to associate you with confusion. You become a slot machine. Most of the time, you don't pay out. But every once in a while, ding, ding, ding. You give her a great night. You take her out to the pier. For us in Oakland, you might take her to Bay Street. You might take her to one of the scenic views, and you might go somewhere close, and her parents might not be home, and y'all just stay up and you watch Netflix, and eventually she whispers in your ear, and then you give her a great night. And the memory of that night, of those moments, of the win, keeps her pulling the lever. Now, that is fun in Vegas. But for a human heart, it's torture. So now I want us to get into the theology of the Lord. Now, this is where it connects back to the last episode, right? They call it gain, but it is more like faith, belief in the things I never say. In Hebrew specifically, the Bible defines faith as the substance of things hoped for, right? The evidence of things not seen. So what I did was I took the holy concept and I corrupted it, like most people do with church music and turning it into R&B. I wanted women to have faith in me, not in who I actually was, but in who they hoped I could be. I wanted them to worship my potential. Now, in the middle sections of the Spirit of Solomon, specifically the cracks in the throne and the fall of Solomon, the false religion falls apart. Because you can only play God for so long before the worshipers realize you don't have any power to save them. When you set yourself up as the center of somebody's life, when you accept their devotion but offer no safety, you're functioning as an idol. You become the thing that keeps her up at night, the name on her lock screen that changes her mood, the one she is praying about, even when she knows she shouldn't be. What do you give in return? A touch, a glance, a half meant vow, a trailer with no movie. Why? Why do we do this? Because deep down, under the hype, under the stats, under the poetry, we feel worthless. I know for me, there was a little boy inside who was terrified that if he just showed up as old regular Keanu, they wouldn't appreciate me anymore. See, I've always been a cheerful guy, but I'm also kind of quiet. I don't like being in public spaces, but I also love connecting with people. And I love being a man, but sometimes I like feeling like a kid, being free, being energetic, being composed yet fun, and loving and caring and overbearingly careful. I became something different because I showed my true self too many times, and I found that it led me nowhere. It led me to pain. It led me to tears on my pillow, those I did not weep, but felt. It led me to crafting a million R&B playlists with an account user and then checking back 2 months later and then seeing account not found. It led me to an ex that never knew what she wanted, but kept on coming back anyways just to see what I would do because I would always do something for her, but she would never do anything for me. It led me to being a slave. So I built a character, a entity. Now, this character had many variations, right? Started off as being Kenny, right? Then as trends evolved, it became Sharkinu, and then eventually the Megalodon, right? These were all characters I built to make me not feel weird around people that said they thought I was special the way I was. That's why I call it. That's why I call the book The Spirit of Solomon. Solomon had it all: wisdom, wealth, women. But the spirit I'm talking about is the mindset that says, if I can just have more, maybe I'll finally feel like enough. It doesn't work. The more people you collect, emptier you get. Because truth is a mirror, and I learned too young, most hearts break long before they are strong. There's a reason you ended up like this. Most players, most city boys weren't born manipulators. You didn't come out the womb lying. You learned it. Maybe you watched a parent leave. Maybe you watched your mother cry over a man. Maybe you got your heart stomped on in Great. Summer. And you remembered exactly how it felt to be the one waiting by the phone. So you made a vow. You said, I will never be the one who cares most to give. I will never be the victim. I will always have options. I will always have all the holes, all the women's. That is terrible. And you know what that is? It's a trauma response. And you know why it's a trauma response? Because you went through trauma. Love isn't supposed to move how it moves in any generation. And the fact that it can happen not one time to you, but multiple, makes that trauma more stamped in your mind and how you move and how you act. And we'll never address it because we'll always go back to saying, well, I'll just get over it. But you never actually sit with it. You never say, damn, that actually hurt me. I want to cry. Right? And to be honest, that's all it is. Even like sections in the book, like the Runes of Pride and the Wisdom of Wounds, that's all it is. It's a man walking through the wreckage he created and admitting, I did this because I was scared. And me, I ain't cruel. I just let them dream. Ain't my fault they wanted to believe in me. Listen to the denial in that line. This is the final defense of the guilty. I'm not that bad. She knew what it was. She saw the red flags and stayed. That's on her. No, it's on you. Because you knew what you were doing. You knew you were a dog. You knew the difference between honest messiness and strategic confusion. You ever looked at somebody crying over you and not even felt a little bit sorry? You need to check your spirit. Because if you don't feel sorry, there's only one other feeling you can process: power. What I call it is Little Dick Spirit. You have to check your spirit. This book wasn't meant to glorify the game. It's confessing it. It is me admitting that the game is nothing much. It's nothing much at all. It's nothing but fear in a nice outfit. Now, bringing it back to the book, I want to zoom out for a second. I want you to understand the arc of the Spirit of Solomon, because if you pick up a book, which I do want you to do, I don't want you to get lost in the first chapter and think that's the message. The table of contents tells the story of us all, right? Section 1, the kingdom of desire. That's the hungry part. That's the gospel of gain. That's the boy thinking he's invincible. Section 2, conquest and crown. That's where it works. The knights are cinematic. The rotation is full. Section 3, cracks on the throne. That's where women start telling the truth. Poems like She Deserved a Husband, Not a Hobby. Section 4, the fall of Solomon. That's when the silence is. When the text doesn't come back. When she, instead of usually responding to you cheerfully, is nonchalant. Section 5, the wisdom of wounds. That is where we are tonight. That is the realization that the game didn't protect you. It isolated you. In the final section, the rebuilding. Now, it's just one poem, The Uncrowned Queen. That is the version of me, of us. that I think is needed. A man who doesn't need to perform. A man who can be loved without props. So when I break down the gospel of game on this podcast, I'm walking you through a part of my many repentances. The same way the book starts in desire and ends in wisdom, we have to move from, yeah, I was the greatest of all time. She can get LC crashed. I can have any hoe I want, right? To, I was wrong. And that's it. But where do we go from here? If you heard yourself in this poem tonight, like I've said 1,000 times today, sit with it. Don't run from it. The sting you feel in your chest, that isn't shame trying to destroy you. It's those unplanned visit to the girl you went riot. No, I'm just playing with you. It's your conscience, the spirit, the Holy Spirit saying, I have something better for you. We have to stop preaching this fake gospel to the younger generation. We have to stop telling the young boys that detachment is power, that the one who cares less wins. Because what are you winning? If you win the game, but everyone who loved you had to go to therapy to heal from you, you lost. The real spirit of Solomon isn't I bagged everybody. In the Bible, Solomon looks at everything he built, the women, the wealth, the palaces, and he says, vanity of vanity, all is vanity. It's smoke, it's vapor. And in my book, The Modern Solomon comes to the same conclusion. All the rotation, all the movie nights, it means nothing if you aren't capable of loving one person honestly. You are going to have to be brave enough to be boring. Brave enough to send the clear text instead of sending the mysterious one. Brave enough to say, I like you, and that scares me. Brave enough to say, I don't want anything serious before you sleep with her. Not after she catches feelings. Brave enough to disappoint someone early so you don't have to destroy them later. You have to step down from the fake throne that you have built and just be a man. A regular man. One who tells the truth even when it costs him company. Especially when it costs him company. And to the women listening, I'm going to say something plain. You do not have to keep tithing your time and your body to the church of a man's potential. You are allowed to ask, what are we doing? You're allowed to leave when the words and actions don't match. You're allowed to stop trying to be the one who finally makes some change. The spirit of Solomon isn't just for men. It's for anybody who has been caught in the cycle of performance instead of presence. I wrote about love the way I experienced it, as a battlefield. But somewhere in the process, the poems became a mirror, and I had to choose, double down on the character, or kill the prophet I invented and let the real me step forward. This is what the episode is for. That is what the book is for. To say out loud that this version of masculinity is killing us. If you are a man listening who has hurt people, you don't need self-hate. You need repentance. You need to turn away. You need to apologize where you can and change your patterns, even if nobody claps for you. And if you're a man still in the game, still outside, I'm not here to judge you. You feel me? I'm just here to tell you that the bill is going to come due. And when it does, I hope you remember this conversation. Stop planting seeds you will never water. Stop spinning webs you plan to walk away from. Stop asking for faith when you have no intention of being faithful. Look in the mirror. Look until it hurts. Look until you see the boy under the costume. And when you see him, don't run from it. Don't. Oh, learn to love him. Learn to love him first, because until you love yourself, you will always need other people to worship your mask. This has been Kim Epps. I'm glad that y'all stayed with me today. And I want to say the truth will set you free. But first, don't make you miserable. Let it. That misery is just the sound of an old kingdom crumbling so you can build something real. If you want to read the full journey, The Spirit of Solomon is out there. Read it slow. Read it next to your own text threads. Now, I just want to say, because we all gotta be truthful here. I'm still learning. I'm still repenting, and I'm still rebuilding. But at least now, I'm not calling the life freedom. I'm Kimino. Thank you for listening. Stay deep. Stay true. Jesus love you. Peace.